So Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Instagram doesn't have like
Instagram.
Just their TV or whatever.
Yeah. IGTV, so then you got to pre-record it and then you can put it on.
Do you do that?
They can't do it live for them yet. They don't have what's called a stream key.
Interesting.
Unfortunately.
I want to do a podcast.
Yeah, I saw on your website you guys were talking about it.
You're throwing it around.
Does it say that on the website?
Yeah,
it does.
On the blog post.
I don't know. I saw it somewhere.
Sweet.
I stalked you guys.
All right, guys, gals, everybody. We're live on the Where to Hunt podcast. I got my fancy notepad over here to make sure I get all my sponsors called out. It even says, "Hi, Eric, I love you," from Holly.
Well, that's cute.
We keep it professional here at the
Yeah.
It's just a shit show. I'm sick. These guys are probably all going to get sick.
That's cool.
I've just been laid out. So we're going to call out, I'm going to just put this right up into the camera. You see that there? Backwoods Grind. So Backwoods Grind coffee is some of the best smelling and tasting coffee.
Did you just coffee bag the camera?
I did. I coffee bag.
At least you didn't tea bag the camera.
Smell this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you know I got their website open.
Oh, yeah.
You've been cheating the whole time. You've had an open bag of coffee.
Yeah, maybe I'm
here.
confused, right? Yeah. If you guys want to try some Backwoods Grind coffee, it is delicious. You can go to backwoodsgrind.com and then enter in code W2H podcast and you can save 10%. And then we like to say we're switching boots. And if you haven't made the switch to Gumleaf, it's okay. It might take a little while. I promise you that when you do, you're going to appreciate the comfort and the durability and the feel of these things. It's like a real rubbery feel.
Yep.
And if you compare and contrast that to any other boot, it literally doesn't feel the same at all. So you can go to gumleafusa.com. You can get 10% off of their boots, which is a pretty big deal. These are not cheap items, so we're happy to provide the discount. Enter in code W2H2020 and save yourself that 10%. And then additionally, musket powder. It's not shaking enough. I should empty some of that out. These are just the display ones. Okay, we have some ones that we use that are like almost all gone.
It looks edible still, so
yeah.
we're good.
So if you go to musketpowder.com, you can enter in code W2H podcast, and you're gonna get a BOGO. Buy one, get one. So if you buy one, you get two total.
Not a bad deal.
Not buy one, get two, because that would be three. Buy one, get one. So that's our call outs for our sponsors today. We have with us in the studio Michael and Isaac with Vector Custom Archery Shop.
Vector Custom Shop. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I threw the word archery in there.
It's okay.
It works.
It's what we do, so
You
it works.
Are doing some really neat things. We got introduced. I'm in some incubator for the app, and you guys just got done with a different incubator for what you're doing.
Yep.
And I forget who actually introduced us now.
Yeah, I think it was.
Is it Molly?
Was it Matt from?
Is it Matt McCoy with Field the Freezer?
Matt McCoy.
Thanks, Matt. And so you guys are doing this archery shop digitally.
Yeah, just an arrow shop.
Arrow.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
That's
why it's
just
not called
I say these dumb things so then you can overcorrect me
Yeah,
and
perfect.
people get
It
it.
sounds good.
So tell us about yourselves. You know how you came to be here.
Yeah, sure. Go for it. You first.
Awesome. Well, I grew up around bow hunting, and we were not the most technical people. I remember my dad, he did a ton of hunting, ton of bow hunting with his pro line Raven way back in the day.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. And he had that all the way up until like 5 years ago. So I didn't come from a technical background, but I've always been drawn to like bow hunting. I love the thought of bow hunting, even back to like Monster Bucks, the original videos.
Oh yeah.
Watching those and just wanting to bow hunt. And so I went out and bought a bow. Basically saved up a ton of money when I was like 12, bought a bow, went out and hunted. I had actually a really rough experience. I was not using the right equipment. I ended up shooting a really nice buck, 135-inch deer.
Oh, wow.
And ended up hitting him back. And because I didn't have the right setup, I had very little penetration. We ended up finding him just by watching the crows, like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, like 5 days later. So it really put a really sucky taste in my mouth. And at the same time, my brother also had issues with losing a buck. And so I kind of set it up for a while, gave it a rest. And when I was in like my mid-teens and I could actually like look at going to go hunting again, I I started to just get this fever to go out and bow hunt. And so I actually went down to a shop and just basically sat there and tried to learn stuff and asked really dumb questions until
That's
eventually.
how you're going to learn.
Oh, yeah,
Ask dumb
exactly.
questions, no matter how big of an
And then
ass you feel
eventually
like.
they just got so sick of me asking dumb questions that they gave me a job. And we're like, well, why don't you just go over there and do this? And from there, I fell in love with it and started shooting all sorts of different arrows and trying to find. I've just basically fell in love with the gear aspect of it and finding the best equipment that I could possibly find.
And then you worked in the shop for several years then.
Yeah.
You got
for a long
into
time.
tuning and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got heavily into tuning, to building arrows, and yeah.
And that was Mike talking. I'm Isaac. I grew up in Indiana in a non-hunting family. We always had bow and arrows around as kids for some reason, so we'd shoot animals, by accident, just goofing around.
Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Accidentally on purpose.
That's what
That squirrel had
we
to
would
die.
say. Yeah. I didn't mean to. And then, always just watching hunting shows and stuff, kind of dreaming, but never had opportunities, until a handful of years ago when I kind of circled back to it and just got super obsessed. So, yeah, it's been several years now just figuring it out, figuring out what works, what doesn't. And, it's the experience has kind of led us to where we're at here. So,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Were you doing archery like competitively at any point before hunting?
I did
or-
some leagues as a kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're
with
comfortable with the bow
recurve.
and
Yeah. Just
recurve too,
it was
nice.
familiar,
yeah.
But the hunting opportunity wasn't there. My uncle builds longbows.
Very
He's
cool.
in southern Michigan. Yeah, and he shoots a ton of deer with homemade longbows. It's crazy.
That's badass.
Yeah, he's
Pretty
legit,
awesome.
and he just wears the Carhartt brown jumpsuit, though, like single piece, and he builds his own wooden stands.
It works.
And he
Works.
kills tons of deer.
Yeah.
And he got me into archery initially, and instead he didn't even give me a bow. He loaned me his draw knife. Have I even told you this?
No, I've
Yeah,
never heard this
He loaned me
story.
his draw knife when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, and said, well, you just need look for this kind of tree, and here's how you cut it down, and here's how you draw the wood. And then he loaned me some DVDs, and I made a longbow, and I tried to deer hunt with it, and it was way harder than I thought it was gonna be. But I was also like
Did it?
in our
I
backyard.
mean, it's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
It is impressive.
So there was some early attempts, but not much early success.
Sounds like
so.
something you're gonna circle back to again at some point.
Oh yeah, well actually we're talking about that because we'd like to learn or just figure out a way to incorporate trad shooters
You got it.
again.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
because of
it's
the
a growing
market,
trend.
the way it's gone, there's a lot of guys, and I'd love to pick up a trad bow. I really would.
Oh yeah.
For now, I would prefer to get even better with what I've got, and then
yeah.
decide to go back
Well,
to struggling.
And we've been talking about getting trad bows, but we're kind of I'm a little bit worried that if I pick it up and I start shooting, that I'm not going to want to go back to my compound.
Exactly.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit
Yeah.
worried that would be
If
the
you
case.
get proficient with it,
Yeah, then I'm
it's
gonna be like, well,
pretty hard.
No, I'm
Well, that's a different type of connection, right? Because you're relying on some different muscle memory. things
right.
that
Yeah,
happen
it's
there.
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Hand-eye
think-
coordination.
What we like about bow hunting so much is that feeling of it being so primal anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, man, if you go any further down that rabbit hole, it's like,
We did an episode with a primitive hunter.
oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he made his own fletchings, broadheads, arrows,
That's
bows,
impressive.
strings, moccasins, everything.
Oh, yeah.
Dang.
He even speared a bison. Like,
Speared.
No,
yeah,
It-
oh, yeah.
dude,
It was a really,
I don't-
like,
I didn't know you could still do that. Actually,
Apparently, there's some
You-
places you
Dang.
he
can't.
might get himself in some trouble with the
Yeah.
government talking like
it's on
that.
film. Like, it's a thing. It was a really
guess.
interesting guest.
You know
But-
what? I just found it today for the first time. I don't know how I've never seen this. The hunting pigs with a knife. Have you seen that?
It's
Hunting
like some
pigs.
Call of Duty stuff.
Yeah, hunting pigs.
Yeah,
with a knife, hunting.
I didn't know people
Hunting-
did that.
I think they even do it with a spear. Like there are certain provinces in Canada. I don't know if it's legal anymore, but you could hunt bears with a spear.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, Josh Bomar got himself in a ton of trouble doing that.
A ton of trouble doing that.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, it was all legal, but
It was legal, but
Frowned upon.
frowned upon
frowned upon, and
by
you get the wrong people.
certain people.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get the wrong people to
Man.
see that, and it gets posted everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the right kind of bad publicity for everybody.
Right.
to
Yeah.
see.
Exactly. One of those things that's super cool to do, and morally, if you're good with it,
Yeah.
it's legal. Maybe not the best thing to put out on the internet
No.
for people who don't hunt to see.
No.
Because I mean, they were sponsored by Under Armour, so the people seeing some of that stuff.
They dropped. Yeah.
they're-
Under Armour
Ooh.
dropped it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
They're still doing fine though. So.
Yeah, they're doing all right. They're doing good.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about how you guys got into this. What we have with us today, and we have some arrows here. We have.
I got you.
doing
I got you.
There we go.
Doing
It's
it.
like a team.
Arrows
Teamwork.
everywhere.
It's like, what's that?
what
Pickup
are the-
sticks?
What
Yeah,
are the
pickup sticks.
the ranch tree call this a Twizzler?
Yeah, that's a Twizzler.
Okay,
You got
Thunder,
yourself a
shoot
Twizzler
Twizzlers.
right
that's,
there.
That's okay. That's acceptable for me.
Okay.
And now, what would this then be called? Because this has some weight to it up in the front. I think they call that front of center, FOC.
Yeah, that'd be front and center.
Yeah, to give some context too, we brought each of these guys like a test pack so they could try them out, just 2 arrows each, and
Which
Built-
shameless little plug here. If you are looking to get into a heavier arrow, this is the best way to do it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can literally buy 2 arrows. Don't have to buy a dozen or 6. All you have to do is buy 2, and you can test out what you really want to do. It's
yep,
To
free
be honest
shipping.
with you, there's no shame in that game. Plug away because it's great. And people don't want to spend a bunch of money on something they go,
Right.
well, we bought 6, but they really don't shoot all that well. What can I do to make them better? Well, if it's the right spine, you could probably change the weight in the front and center, right?
right. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you can change a lot of stuff up, and maybe you go heavier, and you go, okay, maybe that's not for me, or maybe you go, I'd like to add more weight. And usually when guys see the penetration that they're getting
Yeah.
and the arrow flight, they're like, okay, yeah, I want to try heavier.
Yeah, huge
Yep.
difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
You sacrifice some speed, but you get that punch that goes all the way through.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, the speed thing is funny to me. Your bow's so much quieter.
Yes.
So the
When you're
speed,
shooting a
it
heavy
doesn't
arrow.
need to be as
Yeah.
fast because your bow's quieter when you're shooting a heavy arrow. It's
Right.
like
Well, and the other thing that I would tell people too is the fact that no arrow is going to fly faster than the speed of sound.
Right.
I don't care if you have
yeah, there's always
an
gonna be
arrow that is like,
some duck.
I don't care if you're shooting IBO arrows, which are
You can't hunt with
you
that.
can't even hunt with that.
What is that?
I like it. So basically, the IBO arrow would be like what they would test for IBO speed. So
Okay.
basically, when they test bows, they find like the lightest arrow they
It's
can
a
shoot
Twizzler.
through it without it exploding.
Yeah, got it.
And so that's what they use to get those big
The
numbers that you
measurement,
see.
sure.
Like, oh, shoots 353 feet per second. It's with a super,
With an arrow
super,
you
super
never
light arrow.
use.
Yeah.
Right.
It comes off the rest like a banana. It curves around the riser when you launch.
It's for
like
shooting
that.
around trees.
Yeah.
And
It's-
it sounds like you dry fire it too.
Yeah.
It's
a
so
loud
loud
pop.
because
Really?
it
There's just
doesn't
not much
have
there. There's
anything
nothing
to
there.
like transfer that energy to.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just enough accuracy to get it through the chronograph and down the range it goes.
Yeah, and so kind of back to what we're talking about there is you're never gonna have an arrow that flies faster than the speed of sound.
Yeah.
You're not. So the best thing you can do is quiet down your bow and make sure you have an arrow that if you hit something that you're not intending to, because deer react, we all know that,
Yep.
that you're gonna blow straight through it.
Yep. For sure.
Absolutely.
And so what you guys do is help people get to that point where they have that arrow? 'Cause
Yeah.
I noticed on your mug you have the Ethics Archery
Yeah.
logo on there. We've had those guys on.
We've had Big Hoss on.
Oh yeah.
He calls it a lot.
He's
We
awesome.
love him. But that's one way to go, and
Yeah.
to complement what you guys are doing. But how are you guys? What is it that you're doing? To
Yeah,
help the market?
basically, we kind of put together a couple of different, elements that we like in other existing arrow models.
Mhm.
We kind of put our favorite elements together into one shaft. So it's a micro diameter, which means it has a 0.166 inch inner diameter, much like an Easton Deep 6.
Mhm.
So that smaller diameter, it's a lot less surface area. So you get less drag, better penetration.
Okay.
It's also less impacted by wind, things like that. There's a lot to like about a very small diameter shaft. But there's not like a heavy micro shaft option. And there's a lot of durability problems too with micro shafts. So we made a super durable, heavy micro shaft as like the base model. And then with the ethics system
inserts,
up
yep.
front, I mean, you can adjust the FOC so much by that insert comes in 45 grains all the way up to 175 grains.
Wow.
Yeah,
Excuse
so
me.
you can adjust quite a bit. Really,
Yeah.
the entire idea behind Vector, well, you know, it was to solve really three problems. The first one was that buying arrows is inconvenient. You know, there's three ways that you usually would go and get an arrow, right? I mean, you could either go to a pro shop and get your arrows cut there and made there. Problem is they're probably going to have a limited selection of what they can offer. You know, your mom and pop pro shop isn't going to have that. The second thing would be to buy off like Amazon, right? You got a bigger selection, or eBay, or wherever you buy,
Which we know can be a big gamble.
right? Which could be a pretty big gamble, and then take it into a pro shop, which now you're
Have it
taking
cut to size.
right now you're
Yeah.
taking something that they don't sell in there. It's probably going to cost you a little bit more, and they might not even know that product all that well.
Sure.
Or you buy all the stuff and you build arrows yourself, which there's a lot of people that aren't there. And so with Vector, when you buy from us, it comes to your door, you know,
Ready to go.
within, you know, right now our shipping's at like 2 weeks. You order, and in 2 weeks it's ready to go at your doorstep, and it's better quality than really anything you're gonna find on the market, you know.
Anything off the shelf for sure.
And so that's the first thing that we wanted to solve. The second would be the fact that buying arrows is confusing. Like if you look at
Yep.
exactly, like it's so confusing because, you know, we have and a lot of times they'll give you like a spine chart, like,
Yeah,
well,
you
here's
look
our
at-
spine chart.
You
So
look at Easton.
there
Yeah.
you go, 70 pounds, 29, you should be here. That doesn't really help.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
like
we
not
have-
even half of the picture.
And
Yeah.
depending on what arrow brand you buy, their spine either goes up or down. Like, if you buy Carbon Express, a 350 from Carbon Express is a lot different than a 350 from Easton.
Yeah.
That sounds like my wife when
sure.
she's at Kohl's or Target.
Exactly. Exactly, right?
The size this here is not the same as the size this here. I'm like,
Right, exactly. It's confusing, and then you also have 4mm, 5mm, 6mm, aluminum, carbon, and you sit there and
Yeah.
go, oh,
What difference does it
What
make?
is this? What am I supposed to do? And especially if we're going to get people into bow hunting,
Right.
that's extremely confusing.
Yeah.
And so when you buy from us, we're actually working first off on an app that'll actually go onto our website that allows
cool.
you to see what'll happen to your speed, allow you to see what will happen to your momentum, depending on how much weight you add to your arrow. So you have that, but also anybody who buys arrows from us, we'll do like a phone consultation for you. You can set it up, and we will sit on the phone with you, and we will figure out what is best for you,
Yeah.
what's going to work for you. And so we want to take the confusion out of buying arrows so that we can set you up for what you're hunting. Because obviously hunting for elk, you need a much different arrow
For sure.
than deer. You know,
And if you know what you want, you can just go on the site and plug in the numbers.
And it's
get
that
a
simple.
great product that's super
Yeah.
durable,
So there's
super
a
accurate.
spectrum of folks who help. The guys
Oh,
like
yeah.
me that I'll just go to you and say, you tell me, guys. I don't
Yeah.
know. This is
Right.
what I'm after. This is what I shoot. And
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
even sure if that's good, by the way. But like, it's what
Right.
I have.
Well, and,
Sure.
yeah, and then the third thing would be, and this is kind of how the product was developed, is we feel like when you buy arrows, you're always compromising something, right? I remember when I first shot micro shafts, I loved them. I loved the thought of a 4mm shaft, you know, like what our shafts are, because, you know, the wind drift and better penetration, but
In theory.
you know, in theory, but then you have the problem of now I need to buy a deep six head. And for those of you who don't know what a deep six head is basically because it has to fit down into the shaft, it has to be a special thread.
Yep.
And so there's like 10 options in the market for deep six.
Yeah.
So okay, now I want the 4mm shaft, but I have to compromise on what I can put on front of it. So now I'm going to go back to a 5mm shaft. So I'm not getting what I want, but I can put any head on it now. You know, but I want the weight of an aluminum shaft, but I don't want it to hold a bend the way aluminum does. You know, so there's so much that we're like, we just need to build what we think is the ultimate setup,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's really where it came from. We just started screwing around. Just personally, we were selfish and didn't want to sell it. We were like,
Yeah, we made
We're
it
gonna
for us.
figure
How
out.
did you make it? Like, how are you physically making this stuff?
If
Yeah,
they tell us,
we
they'd
just-
have
I
to
mean,
kill us.
don't give us the pudding recipe or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, we just came up with the idea for this kind of shaft should exist, and then I found a carbon fiber manufacturer with a small first-time minimum order quantity.
nice. Like, all right, we're just gonna test this.
Well,
MVP, right?
Yeah,
Well, and
exactly.
it was kind of funny too because it came out of we were just like sitting, having a guys' night, having a conversation about arrows, and I was really frustrated with what I was shooting and was like, you know what, this is, I want this, and I kind of explained like I want a micro shaft that's durable, that's thick-walled, that I can put any broadhead on, and we started. And the next day, Isaac's like, "Hey, I talked to these people, and they have shafts."
I called somebody in
I
South
called some
Korea.
people. I'm like, "What?"
South Korean, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so we ended up just furthering our relationship with them, and I started building these, and people started noticing. They're like, "These things are sweet.
They're really
We
cool."
want them." And so
Yeah.
it just kind of went from there.
Well, and to be fair, too, I mean, there aren't too many United States manufacturers that are actually
No.
making their own carbon, so it's pretty hard to find someone.
Oh yeah,
to do
it
that.
is. It is very, very hard to find. And that's actually one of our dreams is to eventually move all production to the States here.
Yeah,
That'd be sweet.
And to do it.
might be a while, but that'd be cool.
But that's a dream.
Pipe
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sounds like a good one.
I mean, you're on this show, so that's
The okayest podcast.
It's all right.
it's all right. It's just okay. It's decent. So, and how long have you guys been at it now?
Since last June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
So
guys
it's been
really
a while.
wanted to get it going before the season so you could use them?
We
Is that
got
kinda-
we got a ton of arrows out to like industry pros
Okay.
last season, and
And try
then
this. Hey, try this. Just give it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, we
just
we
gave
built
'em away.
we built a
Would-
bunch for ourselves, and then we're like, I wonder if we better test to make sure that these are like
Safe
decent
they
and
work.
safe. And so
Yeah.
we started going to some of the guys that we knew in the industry.
yeah, just
Um,
say, what do you think? You
Like,
know,
what do you think of these?
is this garbage? I think it might be garbage. Oh wait, no, everyone loves it. Okay,
Yeah.
sweet.
That's all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it worked out, and I remember the first batch of the shafts that we got in. I think we had like maybe 10 of them.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
And I took one out, and I was thinking I'll sacrifice one
Mhm.
and break it and see how easy it is to break.
You
So
didn't
I
like, get any splinters or anything, did you?
no, I
No,
put
he
on
was
a-
smart. He was
I put
smart.
on my
Covered
knee
your
highs
eyes.
and
Yeah.
like went outside on a concrete step and tried to like break it with my foot on a concrete step, and I was just nervous. I might not have tried as hard as I should have, but I didn't break it. But then I ended up giving just that arrow for some reason.
yeah, it
to
was,
you.
it was just one for me. He gave me the one
I
that
didn't
he
think he was
stepped
gonna
on.
shoot it. I think I was gonna be like, well, try to break this. See how.
Yeah,
What, see
test,
what you
Something
think.
got
well,
lost
I
in
think what he did
translation.
was he
Something got
said
lost in
test
translation.
it, and I'm like,
I'll
to
shoot
me,
it.
testing it means that I'm gonna go
Send it
shoot it through an
downrange.
animal, right?
Yeah.
And so I fletched it up, and I put the entire thing together, and it was like the second week of the season, and I had a spot that I needed to take some does off of, and so I went and shot a doe with it.
After
After
he used
he-
his size
after
10 to
he-
respine it, you
Yeah.
went and shot a doe with it. That's
And
nice.
it's just a miracle that
Yeah,
you
and
can
I still have my
shoot,
hand.
Still got your hands.
Like it didn't go through my hand. It
Oh
didn't
my
didn't
gosh.
splinter. Didn't do anything.
Wow.
So
And that's the end of the
It's fine.
startup.
Yeah, I
and
guess
that's
we're
the end
done.
of the story.
And here we are.
Yeah, no
Only
kidding.
lost two of my fingers off my left hand, and
We're good.
It's crazy.
Stitch
Yeah.
back on.
Yeah, but then shortly after that, we found ethics and started just
Just have like a
incorporating
partnership
that.
with them, or
Yeah,
buy
It
in
was just
bulk?
we're a dealer for ethics parts. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we
They make it really
we thought
easy.
about trying to design our own, but
They're already
ethics
a
is
leader.
like the
They're right
already
there.
the best.
they're right
man.
there, and they are incredible. Like
have
And,
the
like Pops
name.
will take calls. He's in the car all the time.
absolutely
And
incredible.
he's always happy to jump on a phone call.
Well,
and
and
help
it,
someone.
So cool.
it strengthens everything about that arrow because I mean you
Oh, yeah.
you think about an arrow, and most guys could attest to this. I mean there's two places that your arrow is going to break most likely. It's where your head meets the shaft, first off,
Yep.
and the second would be like the exact middle of the arrow because that's your weakest spot of your
Well,
arrow.
that's where there's most flex.
I mean obviously that's where there's most flex, and so for those of you who don't know what the ethics system does, is it's actually a 2-piece system. So the first piece goes down into the arrow about 2 inches. So it goes down in the shaft, that's glued in, and then there's actually a sleeve that goes over the first 1/4 inch of carbon.
Okay.
So in other words, that carbon is sandwiched between those 2 pieces of metal, and what that does is it keeps it more rigid in the front, so it's not bending. Because otherwise, you have a pivot point there.
Sure.
So if you have your regular broadhead sitting up to your shaft, there's a pivot point there.
Yep.
Where if you hit, let's
bring
say,
some in and bring some over, you're kind of distributing that a little bit.
Exactly. So if you hit a deer in the shoulder, let's say it's a funky angle, hit it in the shoulder, there's a chance of that busting out the sidewall.
Sure.
And you'll see
there's just enough wiggle room in there.
just enough wiggle room to cause that.
Light tolerance where that can happen. And
Right.
I've done it with these, and if you pull the heads out of these FLJs, they do have like a rubber collar in there to kind of help soak up some of that.
Yeah.
But I've still.
But yeah, you
punch
can
them in
snap
the
it
back.
straight across. So the idea is that it actually sandwiches it, protects it. Actually, the best test we have, and this is one of my favorite stories, even though it's me being an idiot. But
Those are my favorite stories.
oh yeah, one of my favorite tests that we did with it was actually I missed a buck this year.
Oh yeah,
He was in the tree filming me, and buck came in chasing a doe. Super awesome, really nice buck.
it happened really fast.
It happened super fast. Didn't have time to range it, and I was thinking, man, it's 33.
It sure looked
soybean
like 30.
field. Like it
Yeah.
looked a ways out. He ended up being at 25, and so I went straight over his
Not
back.
even, yeah.
But I nailed a rock behind the deer, just like
Clunk crack.
this. And I think actually, if you slow down the video, you can see the sparks fly off the rock. and so I'm thinking, okay, there's a shattered arrow, right? And so I walked up expecting that, and my broadhead was actually snapped,
Sure.
but the arrow was still intact. Threw it on a
Perfectly
spinner,
fine.
spin straight, and that's when I'm like, hey, this ethics system, I like this.
Yeah,
this
it
works
protects the shaft just from anything you could hit. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well,
It's
and the
insane.
other thing that makes it also more durable is now you have more FOC, which moves that center of balance forward.
Yep.
So now that spot that wobbles the most, your center of balance is off from that point, and so it makes it more durable as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea with FOC is like, and you're gonna be able to explain this better than me, Mike. But like if you picture shooting a target or something, and then when on the impact, when the arrow stops, the end of it is just like, like
It'll wobble.
back and
It'll
forth.
wobble.
Yep.
That's a lot of wasted energy. You know, like
Oh, sure.
the
Yep.
back. You don't want your weight distributed in the arrow or towards the back of the arrow, pushing the head in. You want the head to be heavy and
Carrying it
pull
forward.
the
Some
shaft.
compare that to
in.
fly fishing versus like regular fishing.
Punching
Yes.
with a
Interesting.
weight
Right,
for bass.
so-
Right.
Exactly.
With the regular pole, and I'm casting the lures, carrying everything out. So it's
Yep.
heavy, and the fly rod, the line in the back is pushing it out.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oops,
that's
shit.
That's
Sorry.
yep.
yeah, it's very
It's a really good analogy.
very good analogy. Yeah. And versus putting that weight up front. Actually, Ranch Fairy, and we were talking about him.
Yeah.
He's got a great video out there on impact paradox, is what he
Yeah.
calls
Yep.
it.
Just
Um,
watched it.
So good.
Go and watch
That
it.
was awesome.
If you haven't
That stuff
watched
is
it
awesome.
and you're confused about what FOC can do for you, go watch it because it's incredible the way that he breaks it down and just how that FOC helps to keep your deflections down so that you aren't having and I think we've all had it where we've shot something and the arrow exits somewhere else and you're like,
way off.
this does not make any sense.
Not to piss anybody off, but you definitely see it more often than not with a rage type broadhead.
Yep.
You do.
Well, you see it a lot more, and then you also see it a lot more with those underspined light arrows
Yep.
because they have so much more wobble to them,
Hmm.
And there's actually some interesting stuff out there that he has. So I'd encourage anybody to go out and take a look at his stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even he talks about how when it hits a target, right? When your arrow hits a target, even before it's going in, it's wobbling. When it hits resistance, it starts to wobble.
Yep.
And so if you think on a deer, if it's going through soft tissue, it might be wobbling a little bit, and all of a sudden you hit bone, that thing's going to wobble like crazy before penetrating even the bone.
Yep.
And so if you have a giant rage type broadhead, and now you hit the bone, and that thing's wobbling,
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of damage, but you're not going to find any blood. You're not going to get the penetration that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get maybe a good squirt of blood for a while, unless you get into that cavity and hit something really substantial. It's not going to end well.
And there's something to be said
And
about pass-throughs with deer, and there's some really good studies out there. There's one by Patterson. Basically, they did a study on an army base. I think it's an army base, but it's in Virginia, where you had to, because it was hunting on the base, you had to like track everything that you did. So like if you shot an animal and wounded it, you had to track that. Basically, everything that you did was tracked, and so they could over 20 years break down the stats of, this is what happens when you hit them with a mechanical. This is what happens when you hit them with a fixed blade.
So
And
it's real similar to
documented.
what Ashby did.
It's very similar to Ashby's stuff.
Yep.
It's more of it's not as scientific as what Ashby was
Ashby's
doing.
over the top.
But if you look at the stats that he has, and I don't have them on top of my head here, but on the recovery rate for animals that have a pass through, that have 2 holes compared to 1, it is a sizable difference.
Oh yeah. Pretty cool.
A comment just came through. Actually, this is my dad. He might. I don't know if he's going to call in or not, but I think he's just doing this for us to talk about it.
The percentage of FOC. So, like you hear Ashby, he's to some extreme. People will say it's extreme 19%.
Yep.
Extreme FOC is over 30%. What would you say is probably the best FOC percentage for whitetail?
Well, and I think that it's tough because it just is very dependent on setup. It depends on what spine you're shooting out of your bow. It depends on how much weight is behind your bow. For me personally, I try to hit 20.
Okay.
I try to hit 20% FOC. Industry would tell you 7 to 15, but we like to be north of that.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's really
But the other
about
thing
what
is-
flies out of your bow.
Exactly.
Well,
It's a lot of playing and tuning.
because you could shoot 35 FOC if you really want to, but if it doesn't fly out of your bow well, then you're fighting an uphill battle.
Right.
I would take a arrow that is 20% FOC that flies like a dart out of my arrow or out of my bow over something that's 35%.
Extreme, yeah.
Yeah. Because there does come a point where you're if your bow is doesn't want to accept that arrow for lack of better terms,
Right.
that it's not going to be as effective.
No.
Yeah.
A sideways leaving arrow is not a good arrow.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you're north of 15%, then experiment and see what flies best.
Mhm.
And that's a big part of why we wanted to make it really easy for people to get a 2-pack of these arrows, is like get a couple of those, see what works best before you invest a bunch of money
Before you dump
into
money into it.
quality set of arrows, So, yeah, it's all about testing it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
It'll get people more involved with their equipment too.
Yeah.
And try to shoot the right stuff and try to get dialed. I mean, we've all done it though.
Well,
Like
it's
you
funny.
said.
I used to care so much more. Not that I don't care. That's probably the wrong way to say it. But I used to shoot my bow all the time.
yeah.
And then
Before the
introduce
kids.
this
Well, yeah,
power
you
into one, and
You
it's
had a couple kids. I mean, that
when-
tends to
when
cut
am I gonna do
into.
this stuff?
Yeah.
And so maybe when they start to age up a little bit and they get some more interest in what I'm doing, they can be along with me for that stuff.
Yeah.
But as it stands right now, man, like I don't leave the house ever unless I'm
See,
going
that-
to work.
It was a
Well,
huge
right,
shock
like,
for
it's
me
just tough.
too, because my wife is awesome and she bow hunts.
Okay.
Yeah, blessed like crazy.
Yeah, that
it's pretty
helps-
awesome.
That helps you.
So like the entire time we were dating and before we had kids, that was like literally a date to go shoot or to go hunt together.
Sure.
So like we shot all the time and it was awesome. And then you have a kid and it's like, oh,
She wants.
that's
to
not normal.
Someone's
We
gonna have
can't
to
do
watch
that
the
right
kid.
now. And she's
Yep.
been gracious this past year to let me hunt a lot more than I probably should have been able
You
to.
kind of have to now, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
a job.
You got some major product
Yeah.
testing to do.
Yeah.
That was completely by design.
How can we get
part
more
of-
hunting time? Let's just start something.
It was part of that first
We're
conversation,
desperate
without a
for
doubt.
company in North-
But like, we need a way to justify more time in the woods for sure.
So one of our friends, Jeff, just commented in, do you offer any arrow selections for competition shooting? If so, what FX combo are you using to create an ideal target arrow?
Yeah, we haven't really touched the target market. We're just
A
trying to serve bow hunters well, and then maybe we'll
Yeah,
go from there.
that's down the road that we would love to get into.
Tell me more about that. I'm not familiar with the target market.
Sure.
I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends with the if you're going to talk about indoor league or you're going to talk about 3D.
3D. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Got it.
a big
Vegas shoot.
difference because I mean, and even the wide array of what people like to shoot, because you'll see guys out there that are shooting extremely light because they want to shoot a light arrow a lot of times because it's flat shooting.
Yeah.
And so if I don't have to care about penetration, yeah, I want little pin gap, if any, and I want to be able to reach out and touch things, you know. And so a lot of times they're shooting extremely light, thin-walled fat arrows.
Yep.
And so that's kind of the opposite direction of our arrows right now.
For sure.
Personally, for me, I mean, my experience with really any like target archery has been more 3D. But it's always been my thought, because I'm a hunter first off. You know,
Right.
I use the same equipment that I would for 3D for hunting.
Mhm.
You know, so eventually, you know, we'd like to go and create something for target archers as well, just using our system. You know, but yeah, it's something that's definitely coming down the pipe.
I know we did so actually Jeff who's commenting, him and I went to the working class bow hunter shoot last summer down in Illinois. And it was fun, man. There were a lot of guys there that I've talked to that I never met in person, so it was really cool. It was like pen pals. We're like, oh my God, we finally get to meet.
It's like summer camp.
It's cool. And that's what we did. They
It's
had
like summer
a,
camp for bow hunters.
They had a 3D range set up, and we shot, and we all kind of grouped together. There's little tiny groups going through each station at a time, and he's got to draw something tomorrow for life insurance, so he's not drinking.
Oh, no, okay.
Nah,
I'll drink.
You
I'll
want
take
it?
it.
And I'm
No,
sick. I'll
I'll drive it.
Scotch this week, guys. It's sad for me. It's my first non-Scotch episode ever, so if I
Uh-oh.
suck, that's why. Or it's because I'm sick, or both.
I'm rocking that
Oh.
Taco Bell coffee actually right
I
now.
don't know how to make
Nice.
coffee.
Oh, it's
Taco
nasty.
Bell.
They should.
It's nasty. They probably
Changing-
shouldn't.
Changing my world right now. Well, we did the shoot, and like we would go up to the target, and like some of these guys, the arrows were way further in, and they're like, "Good ethics, man," you know. And
Yeah.
that was it. It was funny to me, just that like. I was like, oh man, these are all guys that are diehard.
It's really
Hunters,
fun
and here
to
we are.
talk to Haas about that too, because he does some 3D stuff, and he was telling me about a shoot. I think it was on the Total Archery Challenge, but I'm not sure. Where there was like a sapling in front of the 10, and he just shot through the sapling.
Smoked it.
Like that
Right
was
out.
that was his solution. Like I'm
Screw
just
it.
gonna shoot through the
Throw the
sapling
X right at it. Cut right through it.
because I know I
So
can
funny.
penetrate and I can hit the target
That's
through
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
Well, the story he told on our show when I had him on as a guest was like, he shot a bear from like 10 yards away or something crazy like that, and he was injured.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the most crazy.
That doesn't surprise me with him.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, what's
He
that
probably jumped out of the
comedian?
tree with a
you
knife
If you
and
see me
finished
fighting
it
with a bear,
off.
you better jump in and help the bear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he probably jumped out of that tree and finished it off with his knife.
Yeah, with a
That
knife,
would be
right?
dead.
You know, riding it.
Jeez.
Yeah,
We love
Man.
Haas. He's awesome.
He is awesome.
We'll have to tag him in this one.
for sure.
What else am I missing? Is there anything else that like we feel that we ought to be covering here?
There was something, I forget what it was.
I mean, I want you guys to shine on this thing as much as possible.
We shot a couple deer with them this last year between us, a couple each. It's just effortltless, just
Yeah,
easy.
I mean, it's like butter.
Nothing but pass-throughs.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
through-
amazing
through
how
That's our
shoulders
tagline,
and
nothing
legs
but
and-
pass-throughs.
nothing but
pass
pass-throughs. Yeah, I mean it's also amazing
shirt.
for guys.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that and our Make Arrows Great Again.
MAGA.
Might have to pull that up.
Your
We'll
make
see.
a red
Um,
MAGA hat.
But for people that haven't shot heavy arrows, it's amazing to see what happens when they actually start shooting them.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first realized that I could put one through the shoulder if I needed to.
Yep.
That was so freeing. You know, as you're sitting there waiting, I can't count the number of deer. I'm like, turn, come on, turn.
Don't miss it.
You know, whereas, you know, I feel completely confident now that if I needed to, I could put it through the shoulder.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not going to have an issue.
Both the deer I shot this year were quartering too.
Yeah.
Just
It opens
Like
up.
nothing.
It opens up
Easy.
a ton of different opportunities
Yeah.
for shots that you might not have had. You know.
for sure, definitely.
How many guys are watching this right now thinking, if only, I wonder if I
know.
would have gotten that deer. I've been enlightened to this new thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for
The
sure.
website's
I mean,
I'm not saying we're going to like drive sales. I mean, we might. But
That'd be
yeah.
great.
It'd be interesting.
yeah. And
Yeah.
if any of the guys have questions too, reach out to us on our website. I mean, we'd love to sit on the phone with anybody that's curious about, you know, what a heavy arrow can do for their setup.
So are you
sure.
guys doing this full time, or is this still on the side until you kind of fill the barrel enough?
It is on the side.
Yeah, it's on the side.
We got a short runway to where we think it'll pick up a little bit. But yeah, man, I mean, definitely feels like 2 full-time jobs at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Definitely
Yeah.
a lot.
You're answering a lot of questions. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I were corresponding. And you're like, I can only talk to you between this time and this time. I'm like, well, I can
Yeah.
only do it between this time and this time too.
Yeah, that's how it
Yeah.
goes. Yeah, I am self-employed. I started a business 3 years ago
Mhm.
that does video production, commercial projects.
Cool.
And that's been a lot of fun. So there's crazy busy days where it's, 10, 16-hour days, and then there's days where I'm sitting at home editing,
Yeah.
and those are the days where I get distracted by
This, you know, like,
working on
answer
this
these
stuff.
questions
Uh-huh.
here.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
if you ask a question on the website, like there's a little chat bubble, it just like texts us to our phones.
Yeah.
And that's a huge distraction. But we try to just get back to people right away, like
Mhm.
this is
Or even
Yeah.
say
Well,
like,
and
hey, I
we-
got this.
The
I'll
other thing is
respond.
we enjoy
Exactly,
doing it.
yeah.
Like it's not
It's hard to not do.
it's not work because
Oh,
we
yeah.
love doing it.
it's so much fun.
I get excited when somebody contacts me through the website or sends me an email. Like I get excited. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, we can talk arrows. Let's talk arrows. Let's get geeky when it comes to arrows
For
because
sure.
it's what we love to do.
You can tell
Definitely.
you know your stuff. You
Yeah.
care about it. You have a lot of
A lot of
knowledge
fun.
in the space.
Ton of fun.
It's just fun.
Yeah, it's we've gotten a lot of good feedback. There's a really cool video that a longtime friend of mine, John Heingartner, did. It's on YouTube. We shared it on the Facebook page recently, but
Yeah, and if you aren't following us on Facebook, go ahead and go over to Vector
Yeah.
Custom Shop and give us a follow. We do
Yeah.
giveaways as well and stuff. So
Instagram
Mhm.
giveaways and stuff. Yeah, stay
Yeah.
tuned. But John shot a video 3 years ago of he took a shot on an 8-pointer at 51 yards, and with
really reaching out there. And
with
he-
a Rage Extreme.
well, he was yeah.
two and a
we gotta
half
use
inch
the
cut.
ranch fairy terms. He was using a flapper and a Twizzler.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. And it worked. He put the deer down, but it was a difficult tracking job.
You couldn't have got a
Not
whole lot.
much
Not
penetration.
much for penetration.
He
at
got
all.
about 8 inches of penetration,
Just enough.
and then the arrow fell out after 30 yards, the same way it went in.
Oh, jeez.
And he was lucky to recover it, which was super cool. But this year we sent him one of our prototype sets, and he
Yeah.
shot the same size deer at the same distance.
Yeah, it was a difference of
52
a pound,
yards
a pound
Yep.
difference field dress
between the
two.
deer.
Wow.
Yeah, one was
Big deer.
199 dressed, and one was 200 dressed.
Yeah,
And it went all the way through, buried. He said 6 or 8 inches in the ground, and that was a 550 grain arrow.
That's a
Yeah.
nuts.
Perfect.
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
that's what this
Right
can
at the
do
bottom
for your
of
setup
that-
and for your game.
Perfect setup, range 550.
How did you get another buck to walk on the same path?
I know.
It's
it
incredible.
Was it the same
right?
day and time?
It's
too?
it's
Probably.
incredible.
Let's talk
isn't
about
it?
that for a second.
yeah, right.
I can tell you, a
Magic
lot of
man.
guys will swear by it being in the tree November 3rd.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
all we're
everybody's
gonna
got
say.
there is that belief of like
Uh-huh.
there's this
October
trail
31st
on this
and-
day.
yeah.
For us
That's
growing
when this got
Yeah?
shot. Yeah.
For us growing up, it was November 1st.
Okay.
If we were in
I've
the
had good
woods
sits in the
November
first.
1st, like that was you'd see all this rutting activity.
Yep.
Except for this year, oddly enough, I was sitting this year November 1st and didn't see a single deer.
Well,
That was when you missed that buck.
Was it November? No,
was November
no,
1st.
that was the last week of October.
No, that was November 1st, man.
I'm wrong. I'm an idiot.
You don't know anything about timing anymore.
The biggest
I've been
buck
trying
of
to
your
forget
life.
that shot for a while now.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't
I-
the coveted.
No,
days.
I
Don't
no.
put bad juju
I've also
on
been
that.
trying to tell myself it was smaller than it was, so that I can feel a little bit better about myself.
Then I just send him the replay, and it's like, no,
See,
man,
the date's
he was
right on
huge.
Like, oh, maybe it was smaller than I thought. No.
Well, I will
Yeah.
say real quick to everybody that's still in here watching, if you want to call into the show, we'll take maybe a couple calls. We got 15 minutes left or so. If you have questions for these guys that you think in the comment sections, if you're comfortable with a call, the number's on the screen. We haven't fielded a call in a while, unless I'm fielding prank calls. Not that I'm asking for those. But,
Yeah, those are some real dandies.
yeah. Anyways, I do like to kind of wrap things up with memorable hunts. So if we don't get any calls,
Sweet.
that's fine. If we do,
Yeah.
I'll interrupt you guys, which I'm pretty good at doing. Do you have a memorable hunt, Mike, that you want to share?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
I didn't even plant the seed. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Isaac's had a little
you're-
bit more time to think
you're
about it
good.
now.
Isaac,
Okay, sweet.
yeah, you got a little bit more time. Man, I'm trying to think of a
And it doesn't have to be anything you killed, or there's all sorts of elements that create a memorable hunt.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite memories was one of the first times I took my wife Savannah bow hunting, and she came from a non-hunting family. Not that they had any problems with it, but they just didn't hunt.
Yeah.
And so I remember she actually asked me to go bow hunting. She's like, I want to see what it's like. Let's go.
Mhm.
And so we went and sat this stand down by this pond on my parents' land. And at 60 yards, out popped this buck that was probably, it's to this day, it's one of the biggest bucks I've ever seen.
Oh my God, so she's with you.
And you
she's-
guys
and
had
she's-
him on camera all summer and
yeah,
stuff
we
too.
had him named. It was during that period of time in my hunting where I had names for deer, and so
Cujo or something.
No, it's Ghost. He had like this
Nice.
crazy white rack. But he stepped out, and she has never been hunting before. So she has like no idea of like, oh, that's really big or that's really small. And I am just shaking like crazy. Like I'm coming unhinged. I'm sitting there shaking like absolute crazy. And he gets a drink from the pond, and instead of taking the trail that would take him 15 yards, he takes this higher trail up onto the ridge and just walks away. But I mean, I sat down for like the next half an hour, and I was just shaking. And she thought that there was something wrong with me. She was like, "Are you okay? What's going on? Are you having a seizure? I think he's having a seizure." But yeah, I mean, a lot of the memorable hunts that I've had have been just more so taking people out in the woods, getting them into hunting for
We
sure.
need that. We need more of that.
Yeah.
For
Oh
sure.
yeah, we definitely
Definitely.
need more people hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's kind of a similar story. It was, all the firsts are, what come to mind,
Yeah.
top of mind. But the first time I ever went hunting, I should say too, like I grew up trapping
Okay.
and fishing and doing small game hunting a ton.
Yep.
So it wasn't totally foreign, but my uncle that I mentioned took me when I was probably 12 or 13, and we were sitting a homemade stand kind of on this funnel, and it was just getting to last light, and a group of deer comes through, and there was a buck chasing a couple does, and I just kind of sat there and I was just observing, and my uncle had his longbow, and this buck, it was probably like a 6-pointer, nothing crazy. It was crazy to me because
Yeah.
it was 10 yards away, and I'm just like, holy crap, I'm just gonna watch this thing get shot right here, thinking this is the coolest thing ever. And I remember seeing my uncle at full draw, and then just kind of like lets it down, and I remember looking up at him being like, why aren't you shooting it? What's going on? And he was just like, I mean a gesture, but he just held up his finger, like 2 fingers, like an inch apart, and he was like, too small,
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a like, what a game, like what
Yeah.
a thrill. And like to just observe like the respect that he had, and that this wasn't just about like killing something.
Yep.
That it's like it's really like a game of chess, like waiting for the right timing and the right opportunities, and like not you can't just take any opportunity because
Yeah.
there's a lot of factors, and
Yep.
and that's where like I think the bug bit initially, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it comes full circle
For
with what
sure.
you're doing, because you talk about the factorization of all of these variables,
Yeah.
and then the fact that there's only so many opportunities. Well, by shooting what you guys have as a product set, you are maximizing the number of opportunities you have,
Oh, yeah.
where you're not waiting for just turn, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that you should be shooting through the shoulder every chance you get, but if that's something that happens in that scenario,
Right.
you
Okay.
feel a little bit
Well,
more
and it's-
confident and comfortable.
The other
For
thing
sure.
that we're really hoping happens to this is that we not only we get new hunters, but we keep hunters. You know,
Yep.
I mean, and you know, I kind of alluded to the story of my first buck that I ever shot. But you know, I was shooting an extremely light arrow in a broadhead that I shouldn't have been shooting out of a 43-pound bow.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened.
And it was a
the-
bad enough experience for you to want to say,
Right.
you know what, I need to take a break from this.
Exactly.
I don't know if I want to do it anymore.
It was
but
enough to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and so if we can make that not happen for somebody, then this all becomes worth it. You know, if we can recruit at least one and we can keep hunters, that's everything. You know, and it keeps, the other thing that it does is it keeps our hunters' image up too. You know,
Yeah.
because we as hunters, I mean, it's
we don't want to be injuring animals.
yeah, it's
No,
no
no.
secret that we
No.
want to be lethal. We want to. We owe it to the animals that we hunt to be lethal. And there's nothing that is going to turn public opinion against hunting more than seeing animals that are wounded, seeing animals that are the results of bad equipment, and really improper
Set up
training
and,
and setup. You
For
know,
sure.
there's nothing worse than somebody who doesn't hunt, seeing a deer walk around the neighborhood suffering with an arrow through it.
Oh, yeah.
Like
bad,
that's like
Bad news.
you know that's
That's
just
guaranteed
that's,
to make Facebook right off
that's
the bat.
bad news.
Absolutely. It's all over
we,
the internet.
Yeah, we
already.
owe it to those animals to give them the most lethal, ethical
For sure.
kill that we can.
for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just considering, you know, bow hunting is such a year-round discipline,
It should
you know?
be, right.
It
Yeah.
should be, yeah. And there's so much riding on that opportunity, you know, and so we want to just help people make the most of the opportunities that they, you know, work hard to get, you know, so that's what it's all about. Make the most of those
Yeah, for
those
real.
chances, because it doesn't happen all the time.
And the other thing is when you start to play with this kind of stuff and you start to become more proficient with your equipment, you get bit by that bug even more. You know, when you're starting to get to screw around. I mean, any chance that I get, I want to be shooting. I want to be tinkering around with arrows. I want to be tuning my bow up just because it's this bug that bites you.
Yeah.
You know, the more in depth you get with your equipment, and the more effective your equipment becomes, the more fun this entire thing becomes.
Well, yeah, the confidence levels through the roof then. And you, like you said, you see that
Just say,
quartering two shot with the, you know, shoulder right there. You have all the confidence in the world that you know you're going to get through that shoulder
Right.
and you're going to hit the good stuff and you'll be watching that deer die.
Yeah.
did you say your wife's
Yep.
name's Savannah?
Yeah.
So this might be some other Savannah. Probably not. She asked, can you ask them to touch on what they plan to do with pro shops?
Oh, yeah, good question. I can
that's-
talk about that.
Yeah. You wanna
Yeah.
do that?
So, obviously,
Saving the day.
I kind of want to see if it was my wife. She's probably watching.
hi, Savannah.
Light-
Savannah
light
label?
Yeah, it's my wife. Yeah, she's awesome.
Thanks, honey.
Thanks, babe. I love you.
Yeah, so,
up. She's probably rolling her eyes.
yeah,
Idiots.
she's throwing us a lob there.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, so if you have a shop, we'd love to talk, because obviously what we're doing lends itself to direct to consumer relationship, you know, like we want to be hands-on with the product so we can get people set up according to their specs and what they intend to use the arrow for. Like that's not something that we can just send out inventory by the thousands to a shop, you know, pre-made. It doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. So
But we also want to help our local archery shops because
Yeah,
they're
man.
they're so necessary.
This reminds me of a Tires Plus model.
Interesting.
Where I can go to tiresplus.com and they can ship them to the place that's going to put the tires on my car.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it'll
That
be-
might not be nearly the
It's
same
very
thing,
similar.
but that
Yeah. It's
feels-
very very similar. You
Yeah,
know,
that we're working on an app that
Okay.
will kind of streamline the consulting process that right now is so manual You know, everything's
Apps.
turning into an app, right?
Yeah, there's an app for that.
Once there's an app for your custom arrows, then there will be an app for everything.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Yeah.
we have plans to basically try to combine those two worlds.
Yeah.
And some of that would be, you know, the possibility of actually ordering in a shop where, you know, if you're somebody that's like, I don't really want to go online and do this, you can actually go to a shop and order through that shop, and they actually would get a cut of the profits
Shops
Almost
will,
like giving
without
them,
without
I
inventory.
wouldn't call it an ERP, but you're lighting some features set up for them to make their jobs a little bit easier, and then
Right.
the customer
Yeah.
experience a little bit better, right?
Well, and I mean, there's a lot of arrow companies that require a large percentage of merchandise
inventory.
You know, I mean,
You have to have
X number of thousands of dollars worth
Yeah.
of something in your shop, which a small mom and pop pro shop can't afford to carry all these
Yeah,
brands.
it's a lot of cash to just park.
Kind of sitting
You
there.
know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if they can, you know, partner with us, and they're not having to really have any inventory, but they're able to
Yeah.
set people up well
Mhm.
and keep them happy. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's really the best of both worlds because we want to be there for our pro shops, you know.
Yeah, the way it works is like the app would allow us to put it like a kiosk with an iPad in it in the store, and maybe have some of our arrows there, so you can be hands on and feel what different things feel like, or maybe you can
You know,
shoot them
this
in
is
the range or
a
something.
dove load versus a, you know,
Yeah.
we wouldn't use that language because most people wouldn't get it.
No.
But
And it's not ours, but
and it's not ours, obviously. But you know,
Yeah.
this is what a 600 grain arrow feels like.
If you haven't
Yeah,
sent
yeah.
your stuff to that guy, by the way, I'd just figure out what his address is and send
oh
him
yeah, we got
everything.
it.
Yeah,
Don't
we've
even
I've
ask.
talked to him.
we've been
a
talking
bunch.
to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome.
He's a really cool guy. But the shop could just facilitate the order, and then we'll send it straight to the buyer. You know, and they get a commission. It's like,
Yeah.
there you go.
That's cool.
Easy.
How do people find you in the direct-to-consumer model that we're talking about?
VectorCustomShop.com is the website. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us. There's a phone number, an email, and a little chat bubble on the site. You can just reach out any way you like, and we'll answer your questions
Yeah, we'd
best
be more
we
than
can.
happy to answer all your questions.
For sure.
Cool. I'm on your website right now, so we're showing that off to the people watching live, so we can see some of the stuff here.
Awesome.
Enter your email address in there, and you guys are doing some sort of email campaign, it sounds like.
Yep, we send emails and do giveaways, promo stuff, all kinds of good stuff.
You know, free shipping, that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff, guys.
Cool.
Well, that's an episode. So
Awesome.
we're good.
Yeah.
No one did call in, so I think it's just a symptom of the time of year. I've said that before, but we're in
Yep.
this like area of
Yeah.
time right
Chances
now.
are,
man.
if you guys came in at
In-
quote
But
unquote
the
busy
good news
time,
is
you wouldn't be coming
that
here.
have you
this
back
this
Wouldn't have
time
the
of
time,
year is
probably.
absolutely perfect
Yeah.
if you're looking to change your setup.
This is the time
This
of
is
year.
the time. So
Mess with your tree
Yeah.
stands, play with your bow, get your arrow set up much better than what you've had it, and
Yep.
and keep
Yeah.
working with it.
so this is the time.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Give it a shot.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yeah,
Thanks
you.
for having us.